Hello and welcome. This is Mrs. B. I did home education, or we were home educators for many years, and I knew instinctively somehow that it would be better to read aloud books to our son than to just teach him how to read. But I did not really know what would be quality books, what would be good books to read. We began our education with our son in the early 1980s, and as a girl, I had two books. I had a Bible, and I had the story of Heidi growing up. That's the only books we had for me. There were not a lot of books available for children that we could afford, and I didn't get to go to the libraries very often, but I did get to read as a young person, a teenager. My selection of books maybe weren't the greatest, but there's two books that I recommend. I'll name both of them: Books Children Love and Honey for a Child's Heart. And I think there's newer editions than what I have here, but I think both books are still available, and some of your homeschool curriculum fairs would probably have these books, or something like this. These were written to try to screen books and present to you. They're not all written by Christian authors, but they are written with purpose, that you would help your child to learn from the books, learn character, the kinds of character that would enable them to better serve the Lord, should the Lord speak to their hearts and they become followers of Christ. And they would also help your children to become much more good participants in your family, with desire to serve in the family. Some of the books you learn things about that are more negative, but most of the books are positive behavior type things. Let me just read from the table of contents so you understand what these books are. They give a slight description of each book they recommend, and they will list, I believe, the Newbery Award and Caldecott books, which are awards given to the best in children's literature each year for many years. Like one of those started back in the 1930s. Some of these books, search on the internet or old library sales, and some may be in the library down the basement of your library, because modern children's books are often things you want to steer away from. They present a worldview that's very anti-Christian. It's more everything's okay, every culture, every religion, every philosophy, and you definitely don't want your kids exposed to those books. I sort of struggle with that idea. Is it right to shield and protect your children from things they would read? Well, absolutely. They're young and they're forming their values. They don't know. Just like you wouldn't leave a bottle of bleach out for a toddler, they wouldn't even know if it was okay or not. You don't need to have an exposure to every kind of writing there is. You do need to be selecting. Some of the books in here you may not like. Just don't read them. And all books, please preview them well before you read them, in case they just don't really fit maybe what you think about God or some aspect you don't like. But I found many of them were very good. And why emphasize reading when we have so many good DVDs and little things like VeggieTales and all these things you can watch on internet or on a DVD player? Well, because there's much more that happens when you read aloud to your child. These are books you should read aloud to your child, and then some of them the child reads for themselves. But the idea is, when you become a reader, you learn to think, you learn to reason, you learn to articulate words and build a vocabulary that can present, most importantly, what is the gospel of Jesus Christ? How do you live the Christian life? You will not find that by just what I call spoon-fed things like VeggieTales and DVDs. Maybe they're entertaining and have a little jazzy music to go with them, but the art simply of reading and being quiet and learning to think we cannot think with a lot of distraction. So reading or visual things that are put together with a lot of disruptive type of music or even good music, you still are not thinking. It's going by, you're seeing it, it goes too quickly. Our minds, when we think, it's like eating food. Our food, if we are healthy, should go into our stomachs and spend a lot of time there, and then it goes to other parts of our body, and it's digested, and it's processed, and it's turned into things that our body uses to grow and to heal and to have energy. But the quick fix approach of the videos is too fast. A child cannot keep up with it, and they just become more inattentive. They have less ability to concentrate and to think through issues and make wise decisions.